Hello, travelers. Welcome to the Copper Fox Inn. Come on in, take a seat, and join us as we discuss homebrew for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. My name is Thomas the Human Bard, and I'm joined today by
Mercy the Tiefling Wizard, the Bean Drak Gnome Rogue,
and Onog, the half-orc barbarian. Yar! Alright, you guys said it was a costume party. You didn't say that we had to wear black. I just wore this pirate outfit.
Oh. Yeah, it's not really keeping up the vibe.
I just feel awkward. What? No one else is wearing a pirate outfit.
We didn't really say costume party. We said like a spooky party, and we were gonna dress like all spooky and goth.
Yeah, you said we were gonna wear costumes. You said those words specifically.
Nah, see like the black fringe I've got going on? That's like what we were talking about.
I just put a sheet over my head. Like, it's not hard, Onog.
I just dress like this all the time, but my voice, I actually was in an accident recently.
Yeah, he has a respirator.
Yes.
He's got that Darth Vader's disease. He fell in some lava.
I've got lava-itis. The Darth Vader disease. No,
that
if
would
I got
actually
that,
technically be lava-itis, yes.
If I had Darth Vader's disease, my voice would sound like James Earl Jones, because that's what happens when you get Darth Vader's disease.
That's true. That'd be a gift, honestly.
You shove Hayden Christensen into a mecha suit, and he becomes James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
I think you look great as a pirate, Onog.
Yes.
Thank you.
I would say keep up the pirate thing just this whole episode. I'm down.
Fine.
Okay.
I'll do it.
Travelers, if you have a homebrew you'd like us to discuss on this show, send it to us at our email, thecopperfoxinn@gmail.com, or on social media at thecopperfoxinn. You can also comment it below this video if you want us to see it there. While you're down there, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel for future Dungeons & Dragons Homebrew Discussion content. On today's spooky episode, we're discussing something that I talked about on a previous episode. What's spookier than a callback?
Ooh.
This is the freed familiar player race option. I had mentioned on a previous episode that we were going to talk about a familiar race at some point, and I have kept my word. My promise is true. My lawful good God will recognize that and bless me, I'm hoping.
The curse has been lifted.
My curse has been lifted. No, I just, you get any class
can be religious.
I thought it was illegal. I thought you had to be a cleric.
I thought you were a ghost.
Thomas, you say that this is a familiar class, but I've never seen it before.
Okay.
This was posted by user RaccoonLX on r/D&D homebrew, which is very fitting.
Love that.
Raccoon.
That's
Extra large raccoon?
No, LX.
Oh.
Large extra raccoon. I would like to order one large extra raccoon, please.
I have one more raccoon than I intended, and he is big.
No, and he's a drama queen, let me tell you. He is extra. I thought that one would land with Bean. So, freed familiar. So, what is a familiar? Bean as having made the joke already, it's not something that you're familiar with. A familiar is an animal specifically that is like imbued with magical power, or a spirit that takes the form of an animal that is the companion to a spellcaster. I believe, Mercy, canonically you have a familiar?
Sure do.
Who is that, and what is it?
That would be the cat that walks across our keyboard every time we start recording.
Yes, correct. That does track.
Should we name some famous familiars from pop culture, maybe, as like some
Salem
the black cat.
Yeah, it's the one that jumps to mind.
From Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Nagini, the snake from Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
sure,
Hedwig.
yeah.
I would say Hedwig is more of a messenger, not really a familiar.
I think the idea in Harry Potter though comes from having wizards and witches with familiars.
Every wizard brings like an animal with them.
Deep cut Bartok from Anastasia.
Archimedes, Sword in the Stone.
Archimedes, very good. These are all very good. So
they're the plucky animal sidekicks.
Yeah, Iago from Aladdin.
Yeah. Ooh, that would count.
Could you imagine if your familiar in game was voiced by Gilbert Godfrey? That'd be amazing.
Like familiars, though, as opposed to just an animal companion, familiars have, as you said, like the magic channeled within them, and often are like vessels through which the magic caster can channel or cast magic.
And they're often imbued with some sort of intelligence. Whether or not they can speak, they have some sort of higher intelligence. This is within the context of D&D, specifically with the spell Find Familiar, which is available to wizards and
no one else.
I could have sworn at least
nobody
one
else
gets it.
The only people
can.
Well, that's
they can be
the only people who
the
get
whatever.
Find Familiar are the people who steal it.
Oh, that might be what I'm thinking of. As a bard, sometimes I forget that I just steal.
Bards, arcane tricksters, eldritch knights, and warlocks can get Find Familiar, but that is not always the default. It does let you cast Find Familiar, I think, but you can pick different forms. Yeah. It basically gives you better Find Familiar.
Yes, they do learn the Find Familiar spell as part of Pact of the Chain. It says that they have additional forms that they are allowed to choose from for the familiar. So, but it is correct. Yeah, they get the Find Familiar spell. So, back to the Freed Familiar player race. I'm going to start reading, and we'll go through some of the kind of lore and history of this here. It explains the basic concept of familiar, but it also explains why you would want one as a player race. Magic users can be weak or powerful. Some die young while exploring the world, while others become masters of magic. No matter how powerful they are, they almost always require the assistance of a spirit which assumes an animal form, and is called a familiar. Most familiars are replaced during their master's life and disappear after its death. But there are a few exceptions. Some familiars are with their masters since the beginning, learning with them, growing with them. And when a powerful caster dies, if their familiar had enough time with them, they have the power to choose. They can return to their spiritual form and seek for a new master, or they can overcome the end of their contract, keep their physical form, and continue living on until their bodies disappear. Those who choose to stay are called freed familiars.
It's a cool concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is very neat. Yeah.
I think it should also be noted that in Dungeons and Dragons, familiars are not like actual animals that you have found and have like tamed to do your bidding.
Yeah.
These are like spiritual beings that are called from another plane that will often take the form of an animal.
Correct. And so the concept is like if the connection was unique enough, like you've been with them long enough, they've gained enough magical insight or whatever, they can choose when their wizard dies to essentially like live on in their stead, continuing their work, almost like a ghost or something. Like if they had unfinished business, their familiar might finish it before they pass on to the next spirit world or whatever. Or in a less in-world, in-lore, if you're a wizard and you're playing a wizard who has a familiar and your wizard dies, you could be like, hey DM, I really just want to keep this going. Can my familiar just like take my place as I died? And now it's like, now I'm piloting the familiar who is masterless.
Oh my gosh, like it's almost like, for those familiar with Critical Role Season 2, if Liam continued to play as Frumpkin for like the second half of the campaign.
Physical description. Freed familiars are tiny animals who used to serve their masters. When a freed familiar is in its true form, it's indistinguishable from a common animal. But a freed familiar knows that sometimes this body is not convenient, and now it's on its own. To overcome this complication, it can transform itself into a humanoid, using some of the powers that it has recovered since the contract's end. While its humanoid form is practical and resembles a human, it is not perfect. Some of its animal quirks are present even when it tries to hide them. Some are more obvious than others, but all of them have at least one feature that reveal their true nature. Most freed familiars feel more comfortable in their true form and can exhibit behaviors typical of their animal form even when they're in their avatar form, which is what it's going to kind of distinguish between here. So they're like your magic cat, but they can use their magic to kind of momentarily seem like a person, but if you inspect it enough, you'd realize that's not a person, that's a cat pretending to be a person.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I
Interesting.
love that.
Yeah.
So chances are, if you're playing as a freed familiar, you are most likely going to be playing as this animal form most of the time.
Yeah.
And might transform into your humanoid form, like, because you need to go buy something in the shop.
Definitely,
Or
yeah.
something. Okay.
It's like
Love that.
for some ease of role playing and stuff, but it's also just for like, you know, we'll get into it a little bit, but there are some little like quirks about familiars, especially with some of the optional types it has here. You know, if you're an octopus or like a crab, you might need a way to keep up with the party and stuff like that. So
Ooh, yeah.
getting regular human legs is useful. All right.
Oh my god. Wait. Are you implying it's a crab, but with regular human legs?
No, I'm saying it would turn into a humanoid who would have some crabbish features.
Okay.
Perhaps
Like
they're
regular, perfectly normal
Normal
legs.
Yeah.
Like,
Perhaps
it's just
they're-
that guy from Fairy Tale, you know,
Okay.
the crab guy, Cancer, with who she summons, and he's...
Oh yeah, baby.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a fairy tale reference.
It's a
I don't
fairy
know
tale
if any
reference
people-
for you.
I was gonna say I had a very good joke where you said some of them might still be crab-like, or I said that, and you said yeah, like their legs. And I was gonna say no, like their patties, like their crabby patties.
That is a very
It's
good
such a
joke,
good
Thomas.
joke. Let's
We
all.
have once again devolved into the let's explain the jokes we would have told section of this episode of the Copper Fox Inn.
Let's all wait a second just to really think about how good that joke was before we move on. All right, the freed familiars exist since the users of magic learned how to invoke spirits, and their reasons for staying after the death of their masters are as diverse as the amount of casters there are. Sometimes it is a promise, other times the thirst for knowledge, or perhaps the desire for revenge.
Nice.
You
Tag
got-
yourself, I'm Desire for Revenge.
You got killed and your cat is like, I'm gonna get that bad guy for killing my
Yeah.
master. Yeah. Society. Freed familiars rarely contact each other. Familiars have,
They have no society.
yes, have only ever known the love of their summoner.
Aw.
It sounds so much worse than it should be.
Yeah.
Aw.
As such, interaction can sometimes be a hard thing for them, but doubly so, it is a marvelous experience, and many familiars relish in the freedom to express themselves to the ones that they are close with. A freed familiar can have a family with other humanoid races, but their nature makes them not leave any trace of their heritage. The only exception to this is when two freed familiars are together, in which case they can't have children. I don't know.
Is the implication that you can have children
Yes.
with other humanoids?
Correct.
But you can't have children with another freed familiar?
Yeah, it's saying that you could have
That's what
children
it's saying.
with another humanoid, but it would just have the humanoid half.
It would
not
be a
there's
person.
No familiar.
So this
It
is
would
not
be a
implying
cat.
another homebrew race half familiar.
I mean, maybe we can work on that at some point. Half familiar.
But, like, if I went out and I met some dope, handsome boy, and he turned out to be a freed familiar, we
a
could
cat
have
boy, yeah,
children.
the dream.
No,
yeah.
in hindsight, you'd be like, I mean, he did have crab legs.
He did have crab legs. And I think I just thought he was handsome, but really I was just hungry.
on some crab legs.
It can be
They
confusing.
were looking
But, like-
juicy. This is a
Well,
weird-
I'm not
this is-
gonna even finish this question
yeah,
now.
This is getting to a weird place. Look, I don't know, like half elves and stuff, and D&D treats it all very weird. Let's move on. Racial names. Freed familiars rarely use their spirit names, which I would assume is the name that they had before being summoned as a familiar. Almost always they keep the name they were given by their master. It can be impractical in some social situations, but they don't care.
My name's Frumpkin, and I'm here for revenge.
My name is Mr. Scritchens, and I'm here to kill you.
You killed my master, and I'll tear
Oh, wait.
your legs off.
Your
This
crab
is like the episode of Rick and Morty where, like, Snowball, like,
Yeah.
builds the giant robot.
Yeah, the dog Snowball. Yeah. So let's get to the actual core of the player race option here. The stats. Freed familiar traits. Ability score increase. Your intelligence score increases by 2. Age. A freed familiar is an unbound spirit that has acquired a material body. It does not have a life expectancy, but its body does. It usually takes between 30 and 60 years after its master's death before the body vanishes and the spirit returns to its original form. So it's kind of like, it's not like you're aging, but your hold on this material body you have slowly weakens over time until eventually
Yeah.
you can't hold it together anymore and it poofs away.
So you're like immortal as a spirit.
Yeah. But then you go back to the spirit world.
Sure.
Alignment. Freed familiars usually share the same alignment with their previous masters. Size. When a freed familiar is in its avatar form, it resembles the human anatomy. Your size is medium unless you're in your true form, in which case your size is tiny.
So, wait, your true form is your animal form?
Yes, correct. You are an animal. Sometimes you can pretend to be a human, but you're not a human. You're an animal.
I just got confused because you're also a spirit, so your true form could potentially be your spirit form, and I was just getting a little confused.
Your spirit doesn't have a form. It's a spirit. Pull it to keep up being.
Which, as we all know, are clearly defined and described
definitely.
by D&D, as we've discussed before.
Well explained in the rules. Speed. Okay. Your base walking speed is 30 feet, unless you are in your true form. Why does it say that? Because there are different true forms, and they each have different speeds.
Nice.
Gotta go fast.
Yeah.
Yar.
When you are summoned for the first time... Did you just yar at me? When you were
I half-heartedly yarred.
I forgot. When you are summoned for the first time, your master gave you an animal form. That form is considered your true form. As long as you're in your true form, you can't speak, attack, use class features that are not completely mental, or cast spells or cantrips.
So you are like just an animal, basically.
You're just an animal. As an action, you can change to your true form if you're in your avatar form. As long as you're in your true form, your strength score is 2, your dexterity score is 16, your constitution score is 10, but your maximum and current hit points don't change. However, your equipment and clothes do not change with you and fall to the ground when you transform into your true form.
Oh.
So I have a rules clarification question then. And
Look, we're getting pretty wild here, so I don't know if there's going to be an answer. But go on.
But when it says, like, as long as it is only mental... Mm-hmm. So does a barbarian's rage count as that? Because I would imagine that you are simply entering a different state of mind.
I mean, I would argue that everything is in our mind, so it's all mental, man.
Okay. All right. Okay, Bean. I don't know. Yeah, that's actually a good question. Because there are some like abilities and things that just say like you have advantage on a perception check. It's like, is that mental? Is that my brain?
Or is it because of your physical eyes?
Yeah, so it's like, not sure exactly. It's a little kind of like roughshod here. They're definitely trying to give a unique experience over giving a very refined experience.
Yeah.
But I think what they're trying to do is very similar to the beast transformations from the druid circles.
Yeah.
Where it's just like you keep your your brain, but you physically you are different. You are not a person anymore.
But unlike how druids transform, you don't get to keep all your like weapons and stuff because they just fall to the ground.
Yeah. So it's like there's definitely some downsides here because a lot of the other ways that transformation gets simplified for other classes, it does not get simplified for you, and there's going to be some places where that doesn't quite line up, but overall I thought that the concept in and of itself was worth at least like
totally
discussing and looking over.
Have they listed so far, maybe I've missed it, have they said how many times you can transform in a day?
I think that's going to be in the next block for Avatar.
Let's talk about it. Avatar. To make the contract with your previous master, you had to abandon some of your spirit powers. In exchange, you acquired knowledge and power from them. After their death, you recovered some of your old powers, gaining the ability to change your shape to resemble a human. As an action, you can polymorph your body into a human-like form. This form is always the same when you use this feature. You don't change your gender when using this feature, and your body shows some animal quirks, such as animal ears, cat eyes, a tail, soft scales on specific areas, sharp teeth or nails or others, depending on your true form. However, your equipment does not change with you, and if you die, you revert to your true form. So it looks like there's no limit, just as an action whenever you want.
Right, but it's like you can't use it to basically cast Disguise Self. Like you will always look like the same form.
This is more
it's
like...
just you have two shapes.
Yeah. This is more like you assuming a sort of combination humanoid, spiritual, animal form, but it's still representative of you. You're not choosing to look like somebody else. Mm-hmm. This is just like taking another version of your same form.
Right.
Yeah.
This is almost like when people make fan art of the animal characters from Disney as humans.
Yeah, this is the sort of like alternate universe where it's like all the animals are people this time. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Familiar knowledge. You have advantage on Arcana intelligence checks. Malleable body. You have advantage on saving throws against effects that change your appearance or your physical form, such as the polymorph spell.
Okay.
Languages. You can speak, read, and write common and one extra language of your choice from Celestial, Infernal, or Sylvan. Subrace. Your master chose your true form. Your subrace depends on that choice. So there are 3 options, and then there are 3 additional optional ones, which come from different types of Find Familiar being able to be cast and stuff like that. So the main 3 are bird, mammal, reptile.
Okay.
So bird, your true form is a raven, an owl, or a hawk. Those are 3 options from Find Familiar. Ability score increase. Your charisma score increases by 1. True form anatomy. As long as you're in your true form, your walking speed is 10 feet, and you have a flying speed of 50 feet.
Woo!
But remember, your true form, you can't cast spells.
Bring any.
You can't
carry
wield
objects
weapons
with you.
Yeah, you can, I suppose, attack with your
Little claws.
Yeah, but you don't even have a special
weapon. You could just find the actual stats for a raven or something and use those.
Dark vision. You can see in dim light within 60 feet of you as if it were bright light, and so on and so forth for dark vision. Master's Legacy. You know the Thunderclap cantrip. You can cast it even if you're in your true form. Intelligence is your spellcasting ability for this cantrip.
Nice.
So, really quick, just to kind of reset our brains, I do want to remind you, this is a race, so you could take a class.
Yeah.
So you could be a rogue who is a freed familiar. So it's you don't have to be a wizard.
It is interesting that partway through when you were reading one of the paragraphs, I had to go, this is a race, right? Not a class? It almost feels like one because there's so much.
Yeah, definitely.
We did mention that pretty much Find Familiar is almost always only a wizard thing.
Yes.
So it's not weird to say that you have a lot of wizard stuff about you because you were raised by a wizard.
I have a point I would like to bring up that just occurred to me right now. If you become a wizard and you cast Find Familiar.
Well, I was gonna bring that up.
Oh no.
Yeah, what happens? Well, first of all, what happens if someone casts Find Familiar in your vicinity? Is that offensive?
Is that how is?
And then the other side of things is you become a wizard, and you steal your friend's soul from another plane and go, hey, we're hanging out now.
You're a bird now.
It is honestly, it's like droids in Star Wars, where it's the more you think about it, the worse it is for everyone.
Don't think about
guys,
too much.
no, wait.
Oh yes.
You summon your old master's spirit as your familiar.
What? You trade this,
and it's just an eternal circle, an infinite loop.
Okay, your master died and is finally at his, her, or their
now you get to do the dishes.
Perfect ending. And they're like, yes, the afterlife, I have made it. And then suddenly they're pulled away and they're just a rat. And you're like, you're my rat now.
I actually think, I referenced it sort of jokingly earlier, but I actually think if you wanted to really dig into how familiars are going to work in your D&D game, looking at the first season of the anime Fairy Tale and looking at how Lucy and her summonses interact, because they're just spirits that live in this other plane, but they have a contract, they are co-workers.
They show up on, but they can be like, hey, I need Thursday off.
When she makes a contract with them, they're like, oh, I'm actually going on vacation next week, but I'm free Wednesday afternoons. And I think it could, if you wanted to dig into it and make this feel viable in your setting, I actually think that would be a good thing to look at.
An interesting idea.
This also just does have kind of weird implications that aren't really fleshed out in the Find Familiar spell itself. Because, I'm in on a campaign right now, I'm playing a Bladesong wizard who has a familiar that's like a little sugar glider. And I just kind of feel weird that there's... Now the implication is that's just a dude in my pocket?
No, it's a spirit.
And I made him small.
Makes you feel weird about always sending them to touch stuff that like kills them instantly, just to like
Yeah,
see if it's
mercy.
cursed.
Yeah, mercy.
I will say, it seems to me like with this race specifically, it seems like that whatever the implication is that this familiar had such a strong bond and cared about their previous wizard companions so much that they then like overcame, because this isn't a normal thing that familiars can just do all the time. So basically almost like the like power that came from that friendship that they had
Has allowed you to
has
transcend yourself.
transcended, and it's like part of either the contract, you're like, I'm here to avenge them, or like you said, they had
Yeah, for
unfinished
sure.
business. The implication seems here to me that you probably had a loving and good relationship.
Well, yeah.
I think that's
Yeah,
the
but I'm
goal.
just-
Yeah.
Yeah, it isn't implying that like every familiar is actually secretly a humanoid that you're keeping in your pocket. It's one that's like, this is sort of an outlying circumstance that has transcended the normal bounds.
That's actually true, especially with like it says they don't gain the ability to make an avatar version of themselves until after you die. So it's not as if this was secretly what they looked like all along. It's like what they're choosing to use to interact with the world. They make a humanoid version of themselves.
I think just as a homebrew design principle that's very relevant to bring up here is that one of the things that makes homebrew different from like official Wizards of the Coast, Unearthed Arcana, or other material by them is that homebrew does not have to fit every D&D game. This version of relationships and identities of familiars and how they function and the world that it implies doesn't have to match how most people play D&D. Like if I was going to play this in a game, I would make sure we talked to the DM and that we were all on the same page of how do summonses work in this universe.
Sure.
So I just want to bring up that the fact that this doesn't necessarily mesh with how a lot of people treat familiars in their games isn't necessarily a failing, because that's the point of homebrew. It can be whatever.
Well, and you saying that it's like, homebrew can be built for one specific kind of game or one specific idea. It doesn't have to be broadly applicable. Why I brought this during the spookiest month of the year is I would love to do a one-shot where you're a bunch of animal familiars, like finishing a quest that your coven of witches and wizards couldn't finish, and now you, the bat, the frog, the cat, and the bird must succeed where they could not.
We must
love
work
it.
together.
To defeat the
You're-
vampire down the street. Yes.
Well, your masters are like having their bosses over and they're having a dinner party where they're trying to really impress them and they didn't get to do the big thing and they have to run out and do their last minute chores. So you and your familiar buddies decide to like Cinderella mice team up.
It's Pokemon Mystery Dungeon now, boys.
Yeah.
All right, we've got a few more of these subraces.
Sorry, dude.
Mammal. Your true form is a cat, a weasel, or a rat. Ability score increases. Your dexterity score increases by 1. So the first one was our spicy, I believe, charisma score.
Yeah.
going up.
Yep.
This is our slippery. Dexterity score increases by 1. True form anatomy. As long as you're in your true form, your walking speed is 40 feet, and you have a swim speed of 30 feet.
Cool.
Cuckoo.
Keen smell. You have advantage on wisdom perception checks that rely on smell. Master's legacy. You know the primal savagery cantrip, and you can cast it even when you are in your true form. Intelligence is your spellcasting ability for this cantrip. So each of these Master's legacies is a cantrip that you get, and you get to cast while an animal.
Yeah.
I'm not that familiar with primal savagery. Is it good?
That's a Xanathar's one. It's basically a cantrip that gives you natural weapons that you can use. It's kind of like Shillelagh, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
so
It gives you claws.
It's
that
like
you
a
can-
lessened version of Alter Self.
Or no, what it is, it's like it's lesser alter self, and basically you just get like a bite or a claw.
Yeah.
It deals 1d10 acid damage because it's like corrosive, like dripping off your claws or whatever.
And I think like saying it is like Shillelagh but on one of your body parts
Yeah.
is actually a pretty good comparison.
That's
Yeah.
pretty fair, yeah. But that's great because as a mammal, as a cat, you want to be like, I scratch them all up in my cat form. Whereas as a bird, thunderclap is pretty sweet to
That's
do.
rad.
Beat your wings.
Beat your wings so hard that
Exactly.
they
So
get
these
blown
are
back.
all trying to kind of tie
That's
into the
cool.
flavor while also enhancing it. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
The final one, reptile, the final of the 3. Your true form is a snake, a gecko, or a lizard. Your ability score increases. Your wisdom score increases by 1. True form anatomy. As long as you're in your true form, your walking speed is 30 feet, and you have a climbing speed of 30 feet. thermal vision. You have blind sight for 10 feet, which is pretty cool. That's fun.
Yeah.
Master's Legacy, you know the poison spray cantrip, and you can cast it even in your true form.
Sure.
Intelligence is your spellcasting ability for the cantrip. Which, like,
Love
yeah,
that.
you're a snake or like a venomous lizard or whatever. I really like the thermal vision
That's
idea.
a cool way to do
Like,
that.
yeah, that
10 feet blindsight is a very cool limited use ability that's like, it's never going to be that good, but it's sometimes really
but you will
good.
always have something.
Well,
Yeah.
this is also actually a really good example of taking real world biology and applying it in a fantasy setting, because a lot of reptiles have heat sensing pits in their faces which
Yeah.
allow them to see, like, have thermal vision.
I do
So it's pretty cool.
I do like the idea that, like, blindsight 10 feet, like, that's great if you're in a dark cave, there's no light sources, the light goes out or whatever, you're next to a guy, you can fight them, and once you defeat them, the rest of the party is in the area, and you just have to start sort of wandering around trying to find the next person. But since it's only 10 feet, you don't know if you're going in the right direction or not. Like, you have to, like,
You
guess
just
as best you can.
You spiral out. You start one spot, you spiral out.
Because, like, once you get
spiral
within
out.
10 feet, you just go straight for the throat. But
Yeah.
it's like, you're 15 feet away, and you're like, I don't know where they are. Yeah.
Fair
That's
enough.
Fun. That's fun.
That's also, I think a lot of the higher challenge rating snake creatures as well have blind sight
yeah.
and things like that.
I think you're correct. Optional sub-races. So there are 3. Aquatic, Insect, and Unchained.
Nice.
Yeah, that's for if you
Yar.
are a warlock familiar.
Very cool.
Aquatic, your true form is a... Yar. The true form is a crab, a salamander, or a toad. Ability score increase. Your wisdom score increases by 1. True form anatomy. As long as you're in your true form, your walking speed is 20 feet, and you have a swim speed of 40 feet. I didn't realize crabs swam so fast.
They
Crabs
do.
crabs actually can swim quite fast.
Dude, have you ever tried to catch a
Spooky.
crab on the
I thought
beach,
that
though?
crabs just did that thing where they, like, float in the weird current and they just, like, let it go, man.
You're also a magic crab, so you know what?
That's true.
Things
You
can
got
be
a
different.
propeller. Amphibious, you can breathe you can breathe air and water. Master's Legacy, you know the Ray of Frost cantrip. You can cast it in your
Nice.
true form. Intelligence is your modifier. Yeah, Ray of Frost.
These are all pretty even cantrips for them all to have.
Yeah,
like, It's
definitely.
actually really well balanced.
Yeah, nobody got a True Strike, so that's nice.
There are some very specific kinds of crabs that can swim quickly. Most crabs just walk across the bottom, but some crabs can swim.
Thanks for
Yeah,
listening to
I-
this week of Crab Facts. Our famous
I just don't
podcast
want to
within a
spread false
podcast.
crab
False
information.
crab rumors. The crab community will be up
Fair
in
enough.
arms.
The crab community.
I remember
thanks you.
distinctly watching like a Planet Earth or something like that, where it's just like, and then there's just this crab just booking.
Yeah.
Insect. Your true form is a spider, a centipede, or a scarab. Man, scarab, that's actually
That's
kind of
rad,
I never
yeah.
thought about a scarab
That's
familiar.
dope.
That's really
For
cool.
like an
Very
Egyptian character.
flavorful.
Very cool. Ability score increase. Your constitution score increases by 1. We chonky now, boys. True form anatomy. As long as you're in your true form, your walking speed is 30 feet and you have a climbing speed of 40 feet. Vibration sensibility. You have tremor sense for 20 feet.
Ooh.
Master's Legacy. You know the infestation cantrip.
I'm going to cast a magic spell, and I will cast myself. And you just
Jump in their
crawl up,
face. Yeah.
crawl up their pant leg and start biting.
I will say, I do love the infestation cantrip. I think that's also a Xanathar's Guide.
Yeah, a lot of these are
Man,
Xanathar's.
it's a really good one. I used it on
Yeah,
a
it's
character, and it's so fun to just, like, make a swarm of insects appear around someone's head and completely freak them out. Unchained. Unchained familiars is the final one. They are familiars whose master had a pact with an otherworldly patron.
Dun, dun, dun.
Unchained familiar. Dun, 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 dun. An unchained familiar is usually a boon given by the patron to its servant. When this pact ends, the patron ceases empowering the familiar, making it lose some of its powers, but letting it retain its physical form. Your true form is an imp, a sprite, or a pseudodragon.
Yeah.
Look, another playable sprite, a fairy race.
Hey!
We got that.
That's the thumbnail. The title of the video is Playable Fairy Race.
Playable sprite fairy race, please.
That is our most popular video.
By a lot.
For some reason. Ability score increase. Your charisma score increases by 1. True form anatomy. As long as you're in your true form, your walking speed is 10 feet, and you have a flying speed of 20 feet. So you're
still
very
really
slow. Yeah. This is easily the slowest one. And superior anatomy. While you're in your true form, you can speak, use your hands or claws as normal to manipulate objects. You can use class features that improve the way you manipulate objects, such as expertise with these tools. You can't make any kind of attack using this feature.
Okay, so you get to be a little less good because you are also more good. I'm going to
Yes.
rephrase that. Okay.
Yeah, you're less good because you're more good, you know. Less is
You
more
know
with
it.
good, am I right?
But, like, so you don't have maybe as many other, like, true anatomy form, like, speed or the cool cantrips because instead you get to, like, actually have hands and a mouth
Yeah.
when you're in your true form.
Yeah, you get to talk and be, like, manipulating things. I love
And do
the idea of
things.
an imp because imps are
Yeah.
so funny and they're such just like a little demon. It's like, hey, what's up? It's me, the imp. Remember, I was
have
a
a
familiar, but now I'm just a guy.
I
I'm a
picture like
free agent.
the little like demon guy from in what's that show made by the same people who made like Simpsons and Futurama, Enchanted,
Disenchant.
Disenchantment.
Oh, Disenchanted.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the imp. I just picture that her little like shadow demon friend.
The devil.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
hey, do crime.
Just do crime. I picture the two demon Panic and Pain from
Yeah.
Hercules.
Yeah.
We're worms.
I always do picture the imp in D&D as like a little pot-bellied, like
Yeah.
tiny horns on the head. like,
Cute little imp.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is a rule that all imps have to have Brooklyn accents. Like, that's
Oh, yeah.
that's
Yeah.
legally required.
Definitely. And there is a small note at the end here from Raccoon LX, which says all content will probably be tweaked for purposes of balance, which is understandable. And it says, English is not my native language, so I hope there aren't a lot of mistakes in the text. And you know what? Raccoon LX, you did a fantastic job. This is incredible. The very minor mistakes you made are by no means do they bring
Disruptive.
down. Yeah, they're no means disruptive to the concepts here, and I want to congratulate you on the work that you've done here.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is very
Good
well
work.
designed, very well written. You wrote it in English better than I can write in any second language, so, you know, I'm very
You wrote it
very
in English
impressed.
better than I can write in English.
That may be true, Bean. That may be true.
Hey, oh, well, okay. It's one thing if I say it.
I'm just supporting you, my friend.
Just because we're spooky doesn't mean we have to be mean.
And one of us is a pirate.
Yes, 3 spooky friends and a pirate.
This is another one of those things where Wizards of the Coast has specifically kind of either scaled back or intentionally like put forward some design elements as far as like player race designs go. And one of them, as we've talked about before, is player races starting with fly speeds, even though they're even if they're slower or something like that, is something they've been trying to stay away from. And additionally, too, the ability to drastically and on command change your character size
Yeah.
is something
Especially
that they
2 sizes.
especially down especially down to tiny is something that while it doesn't mesh with their design space, it's one of those things where, you know, obviously you'd need to permission to use this anyways as homebrew in your campaign, but if your campaign is the kind of thing or the kind of environment where your DM doesn't really care that you can become tiny at will, you know, or he doesn't really care that that tiny creature can then fly 40 feet, you know, it is certainly a challenge for a DM to try and be able to deal with that, because it's one thing entirely to have like a small character and they have weaknesses and strengths according to that, but then to have a tiny character that can change size 2 sizes up at will compounds that even more, because basically this character gets all of the benefits of being a medium-sized character and all of the benefits of being a tiny character, and not really any of the downsides, because they can literally just use an action to change.
I will
sure.
say that like their ability to change isn't as good as the normal abilities to change
Right.
that other people
That's true.
have.
It's
So
it's much more limiting,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
still,
you
yeah.
can do it a lot, but it would be very inconvenient because
Yeah.
you're like, I turn into the bug and I crawl under the door and I turn back and now I'm naked and I have nothing.
Yeah.
And I have, if I turn into my bug again, I can't cast any of my spells while I'm a bug. I can't make attacks while I'm a bug, really.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it
balances
they
out.
did that balancing.
Yeah.
Instead of limiting the amount of times you could do it, they limited your utility as a tiny creature.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And I think it makes the cool problem-solving aspect of role-playing this character, too, as well as, like, okay, do you have a deal with your friends where it's like, anytime you transform, they're gonna carry
Somebody grab my stuff.
their stuff?
Oh, it's
you know?
like Animorphs. Man, how do we keep coming back to Animorphs on this show?
We
I feel
always
like
do.
every week we come back to Animorphs.
I think a good way, if you want to play with races like this in your game that are a little more out there and let you do things you wouldn't normally be able to do in like a player's handbook race, I think a good way to do it sometimes can be to just talk to your DM or your group of friends and see if you guys want to do a campaign where all of you are some crazy player race that gets more benefits than most player races do. Like, this definitely gives you more benefits than just choosing human does, you know? But if you all do it, it's still balanced with each other.
Yeah.
And that can be
Yeah.
really fun to just have like a really
If
zany
everyone's
campaign.
broken, then no one is.
Exactly,
that's
yeah.
true.
But it's like, you know, if one of you is this and then another one of you is like some crazy is a playable fairy race who can also fly and be tiny, you know, it works out more.
Yeah. I will say the flavor of this is so good, and it's exactly what I didn't know that I wanted in my heart. And I think that their attempts to balance it have been pretty good. This is
Yeah.
about as successful as I could think to make it.
I think that for how complicated and rules heavy this ends up all needing to be, this is a pretty successful attempt. Like,
Yeah.
for sure. Though there is a lot of rules here, a lot of the ways that they've chosen to go about this are actually pretty elegant and simple. I would have probably had 3 or 4 box texts being like, okay, look, so when you transform, this is what.
Yeah. They didn't overthink it in certain ways, which is nice.
Yeah.
I do love, as soon as I realized what this was, like, the child within me looked up in glee, realizing that finally, the magical girl OC that has lived in my heart since my youth, I can be the pretty magic girl, but also I turn into Fluffy Cat, is all I've ever
And
wanted.
technically, when you're a girl, you are a cat girl.
Yeah. This is all 8-year-old me ever needed and wanted, and finally I can have it.
Good. I'm glad we were able to provide that to you. The ghost of mercy. Thank you. All right. So before we wrap up here, I think the question has to be presented to each one of us in turn. Mercy, you just kind of gave us your answer. What familiar would you be?
See, what I want to do is make it even more broken and be like a cute fuzzy cat, but also I have like little bat wings.
Okay. Well,
boy.
Get the spell Alter Self.
Maybe they're
can
too
have
small
bat
to be
wings.
functional, they're just aesthetic.
You can have
You
little,
can have bat
they're
wings, but
plastic.
they are from Party City.
I just wear one of those like cat Halloween costumes.
Yes. Yeah, just from Party City Bean. Yeah, exactly. That's so
Oh my
good.
gosh, that'd be so cute because you would be like intelligent. So as you're like a fluffy little cat, you are still just like wearing little outfits.
You also put on clothes as a cat. But then you have to take those off before you transform or you'll shred them.
You're right.
You go into the Party City and you, as a cat, you give them like a $5 bill.
Adorable.
Give me the cat in costume, please. All right.
This is $7, ma'am.
Onog, what is your choice?
Oof.
Well, I've noticed that as he's a pirate, he's had a familiar the whole time. He's got a little parakeet on his
That's
shoulder.
true. You could a hawk, perhaps, a little bird of some kind.
Yeah, I think I'd be down. I'd be down for Hawk, or probably one of my personal favorite from the warlock list are Quasits.
Yeah, those are wild.
They're pretty rude dude boys down there.
They're pretty wicked and wild there. Quasits have a lot going on.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
Character block for sure. All right, Bean, what are you picking?
So I think I would either be an otter or
So it's like a reflavored weasel of some kind.
Yeah, I would just give myself
Otters
the
are weasels.
Yeah,
They're
I'd give
just
myself
wet.
the weasel stats.
The wet weasel. Wet
They have the
weasel.
swim speed already. You don't even need to do
Care
it.
to wet
Hey
your
kids,
weasel?
wet your weasel with this familiar. Hey,
Yikes.
that's That's the imp familiar
That sounds
pitching
so
other
inappropriate.
I hate that.
Come and wet your weasel.
Wet your weasel.
Yikes.
Okay.
We're gonna get
We're doing wet your
demonetized.
whistle, obviously.
We'd have
which
to
is
be
about-
monetized to get demonetized.
Ooh, they can't demonetize you if you're not monetized. That's
The big brain play we're doing.
big brain.
A pro gamer move. So I'd probably be, and these are all very similar, but like either an otter, a coati, or a lemur.
Ooh, coatis are good.
So are those all mammals?
Yeah.
Those are all
Which
mammals.
of
I
these
would.
would you be? Is I guess what I'm asking. So
Which
the
of these
mammal
I would
one.
be a weasel.
Sure.
Oh,
Alright,
no,
what
I was about
about
to
you,
say he was a whatever fancy thing.
Quasi?
He
Yeah,
meant
he
to
was
say.
doing the
but
Unchained one.
It's not
which
on
is-
this list,
clarified that it was an
technically.
Unchained.
Fair
They
enough.
say imp, sprite, or pseudodragon on
Oh,
this,
okay.
but
I thought that
Well,
they-
because quasits can't fly, which is unfair.
Yeah, but
So you'd be an
I
imp
mean,
who looks
essentially-
like a quasi.
Yeah.
I'd be a weasel that looked like an otter.
Yes. Very good.
I'll be a cat that looks like it has bat wings.
That's good.
What about you,
What
Thomas?
are you, Thomas?
I don't know. I feel like I'd like to be like a raven or something.
That'd be cool. That's what I thought you would
Yeah, I
pick.
could see it.
Really?
as a-
That's
Yeah,
what you thought?
I did.
I feel like Thomas would just be a smaller version of Thomas.
That's if you're playing a game and you'd like to summon a familiar with the Find Familiar spell, ask your DM if you can summon a tiny Thomas the Human Bard
That's so
to act as your
funny.
familiar. He does have a fly speed. Just like Superman flies around.
I love that.
Just touching people to cast Chill Touch.
It is so in the spirit of D&D that just like how we saw tieflings, we read the list of colors they said we could be, and all with one voice we said, "No, I'm purple though."
Yeah.
I feel like it's very the spirit of D&D that it's like, here, I'm giving you this like crazy wild player race option that you've never had before, and I'm like, give me cat, but also bat wings. Like, you just always demand
It's
more.
never enough.
It's
You
like
try to
once,
supplicate them.
it's like once you
Never
open the
enough.
gate a little bit, like the floodgates of everyone's like ridiculous
You give them an
OCs
inch.
just come barreling through.
Can I be 3 octopus in a trench coat?
Okay, Mercy is a cat with little bat wings,
Yes.
but what she doesn't know is that the bat wings were just like little decoration and makeup prosthetics that her master made for her long ago, and nobody has the heart to tell her that they are definitely not real bat wings.
She keeps trying to fly, but the rest of the party keeps finding ways to keep her from trying. She's like, I'll just fly up ahead, jumping off this cliff. They're like, oh, no, we got it. We'll go around.
This is like uncomfortably accurate since I was like, this is my childhood OC, because as a child, I regularly jumped off of furniture flapping my arms as hard as I could, and I remember telling my parents that like I was getting pretty close to flying, and I'm pretty sure I got like a couple of seconds that time.
I would do the umbrella. I would grab a big old umbrella, and I never jumped off a roof, but I would because I you have to test your hypothesis first.
Wise.
But I would jump off of ladders and like
Ladders are still pretty tall.
Wait,
Onog.
Wait,
from the top.
Onog, you can just be a closet with an umbrella who like flies
Yes.
around like Mary Poppins for your fly
He's just
speed.
this grumpy little frog looking
want?
dude with an umbrella that
I
he uses
love
to
that
fly.
image.
The 2 little British children look to the window that's blown open, and as you come through, you go, you're the kids I'm supposed to nanny. All right.
We're going to Wet Weasels water park.
Wet Weasel's water park.
Yes, please.
I was gonna say he was gonna be like, all right, your first chore is to trim my toenails, and he like puts them up and starts reading like a magazine.
Help me launder this cash.
Help me! He's like a crime boss.
He has to take them on like the sting operation he's going to, and he has to do like a hit, and he's like, stay in the car, listen to the radio.
It's so funny.
Here, take this. Hands him like a 45. Work. Do what you gotta do. Who is this nanny? It's Onog.
I answered the indeed
It's
offer,
Onog the
and here
closet.
I
No,
am.
wait, okay. A hitman gets summoned to a house, but a nanny gets summoned to a similar house, but the addresses are like one number off. So the magical British nanny is helping the mob, and then the like weird hitman is helping nanny the kids.
That's actually amazing, and I would see that movie in a
That's a wonderful. There's
I wanna
a
see
DM plot hook you can have for free.
I want to see the
There you
level of the video game Hitman, where you get your cover is the nanny of the two children, but
Oh, man.
your goal is to kill like a CEO visiting the house, or
And it's like the
whatever.
kids are constantly following you around, but they can't see you.
Yeah,
do
yeah.
it, yeah.
So you have to find ways to distract the children with like fun activities, but if they're not fun enough, the kids will like be
Find
mad
out.
and
They'll come bother you,
So you
yeah.
have to actually be a good nanny, and at
Mm-hmm.
the end, after like having drowned the CEO in a toilet and thrown his body in the garbage, you like are leaving, and the kids are like, "That was the best nanny we ever had."
You like still tuck them in and give them a kiss.
Yeah, you give
like,
them each one
You'll be
gentle
coming
smooch on
back
the
tomorrow,
forehead.
won't you? And it's like a single tear rolls down your cheek.
And you're like, "Yeah, tomorrow." Knowing that you'll never come back.
oh, beautiful.
Hitman, what a
Beautiful.
That's where we'll wrap the episode up today. How did we get so far off?
On
Every
an
time I go to
aggressive
wrap-
and violent tangent.
very gentle and warm. He was tucking those children into bed. He loved those
As
children.
per usual.
Well, if you want us to wet your weasel, hit us up on Twitter or all our different social media platforms.
If you want us to wet your
That's-
weasel,
that's-
hit us up on Tinder.
That's one of our Patreon tiers.
Patreon tier,
No.
wet your weasel.
No.
Stop. We're done. Stop. We're done.
Oh boy.
So so we've had the T-shirt, one chunky boy, and then now we have wet your weasel.
Ask me about my wet weasel. Is what it says.
Oh man.
Oh boy.
you
Hey,
liked
we
this
said it would be a
episode-
spooky episode.
Oh,
Guys,
right.
Clancy
Oh,
just
right.
said he's cutting us off.
Yeah, Clancy's cutting us off for that. We gotta go home. I forgot. You're correct, Bean. It was a spooky episode. So, thanks for listening, travelers. Remember to send in your homebrews and like and subscribe for future content. And because it makes us feel nice when you do it. Are you a witch? I thought you were a ghost.
I'm the ghost of a witch.
Onog, by the way, we weren't gonna do this until much later, but we have this for you. It's a medal, and you have won best costume.
Yar! Thank you.
Well done. Yes, claps all around. Good work, Onog. I will say that I think this was all rigged. I worked for weeks on my costume, but okay.
I mean,
Just wearing a black
you're just
tuxedo.
wearing like black.
Yes, and I've worked for weeks on.
Wait,
it.
I'm looking at it. Was this like a gray suit beforehand, and you colored it black with a Sharpie?
Yeah, for weeks.
Oh my gosh.
So that'll be all for today. Until next time, keep on adventuring. Goodbye.
Yar!
Thank you. The end. We're done. Oh my goodness, guys. What was that episode?